Hello, welcome back. Sean here, Mountains Garage, Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving 2024. After the turkey meal and a nap and a movie yesterday afternoon, I came out last evening and slid the rear end and bolted it up under the chassis for the 47 Ford pickup project. I did not clean up the rod ends and the links. I just stuck them back under here and stuck the bolts in it because I was curious about the shock mounting and making sure the diagonal link that was laying in the pile actually belonged to this chassis, which it does. It fit right on, so that centers the rear end side to side, keeps it from shifting this way. There's other ways to do it. 3 ways. Panhard bar. I said panhard the other day. Nobody liked my pronunciation of it. That would go, you want to bracket up here over to the frame rail. They found, at least in the drag car, when you let off the throttle on the top end of the track, it kind of wanted to make the back of the car spooky. So they went to a diagonal link, which goes from the back of your 4-link bottom to the front of the opposite side on the bottom. That works pretty well. Still very popular, and of course after that they went to a wishbone style, just like the name sounds. A lot of suspension components are named after things you might relate to. Apparently everybody's tugged on a wishbone like yesterday out of your turkey. Well, that would hook either to the back on the bottom to the forward cross member, or you might hook up top and run the single rod end back here, you know, because it's a triangle. Some will argue what the right and wrong way is. Whatever way keeps the rear end centered in the chassis and doesn't influence the way the car handles is the right choice for you. The diagonal link is probably the easiest and probably the cheapest. So mounting the shocks, all I had to do was flip the brackets over and turn them side to side, because they used to go there offset, and it had a shorter shock on it apparently. So, and it had the clearance a little bit for the bottom of the shock. The way I currently have them mounted, this is the bottom, but AFCO especially will tell you on their website that you can mount them either direction. You can turn these around, and they claim it's advantageous because it's less unsprung weight. Unsprung weight will be stuff that, you know, doesn't hang with the chassis. I guess this is considered weight on the rear end, but in my world here, this is a Dana 60. A very heavy dump truck rear end. That ship's pretty much sailed, so they're currently mounted in this position. However, there's an adjustment. You probably can't see it, but right under the upper rod end, these are double adjustable shocks. One is obviously down here on the knob. The other one, you got to stick a punch or something in and actually turn the shaft. So I'll leave them like this currently. They fit pretty good. This is traditionally the way they would look. I'm not in love with the color. I won't lie to you. Maybe it's the yellow springs, but either way, it's temporarily mocked up. Nothing is tight. I still have to figure out a lot of things. The anti-roll bar should be here tomorrow, I believe. I took advantage of some early Black Friday deals, and that's what I was doing right up until a few minutes ago as well. Man, there's some deals out there. Speedway Motors, up to $200 off $1,000 purchased. And me being honest, I called them up and say, can I make multiple purchases and get $200 off every time? So I did. And buying some cylinder heads for a project that I'll have to talk about probably this weekend. I think we're going to temporarily at least change up the motor for this project, only because opportunity struck, and in a few days I could have it ready to run. And then on a future date, maybe the blown small block, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So I flipped the shock mounts around, ground them a little bit for clearance, found some grade 8 half-inch fine thread bolts that were all rusty, and I just I put them in my cordless drill, hold them to the wire wheel on the bench grinder, and they look brand new. Everything's nice and relaxed. Having a rolling cart and the frame on the lift, it's kind of nice. I went ahead before things changed and got out 2 more ratchet strapped, and I got the frame tied to the lift. Otherwise, right now, it was front heavy. Now it's definitely going to be rear heavy. So I'm watching out for that, because when I'm done messing around here, I got a rear anti-roll bar coming, should be here tomorrow as well. So I need to weld brackets for that. I may have to take the rear end back out. It still needs to be cleaned up and painted and whatnot, and you know, flat black or gloss black, some kind of black. I have a different cover. Now on camera, this thing looks pretty good, but it was brand new. The gasket has weeped from day one. It actually looks like it stopped weeping. It stopped marking like the trailer. On a hot day, it might leave a drop of grease, so it needs a new gasket. And I have, I think it was actually bought for this rear end when I didn't own it, one of the cast aluminum covers with the, you know, the cap support. You're supposed to preload the caps. Now, on a rear end like this, again, it's a dump truck rear end. I don't think that aluminum cover with preload is going to do a whole lot, but hey, I have it. It's better looking than this. Probably holds a little more oil, which is like a gallon or more. And yeah, so all future Sean endeavors, but that's the rear end install so far. Let's take a walk around, talk about a couple more things. All right, let's take a quick walk. That's the other adjustment in that window right there. So I can see where that might be easier on the bottom if you only had a knob at the top. Coming around, I just guessed at the 4-link placement. I'm at the bottom parallel, and this is headed downhill, you know, toward the front spindle engine area. One thing that jumps out at me right now, getting ahead of myself, but I will not be using this transmission cross member. However, if I put you on a level plane, now that's going to have a transmission mount, so the yoke is going to be up quite a ways. Look at where the pinion yoke is. I don't know how many videos I watch, and it gets repeated over and over again. You know, there's somebody saying, you got to put your engine downhill 3 degrees. Well, sure, if it's 4-wheel drive, or an old Mopar with super stock springs, or, you know, a street beast with the Gabriel hijack is jacked up all the way to the top, sure, and your body's sitting over the tires instead of having the tires tucked underneath. But if you're building something low, your engine is either level or probably running uphill at the tail housing, because this rear end is right now hanging down. It's going to go up, if anything. These beautiful yellow springs are a 12-inch spring mounted on a shock body that'll take up to a 14-inch spring. That's up to your choice, and the beauty of having all this extra travel is, again, shock theory. You could write a whole many books on that, but if you're setting up the car to squat in the rear, you're going to want to have it set up. This is a 7-inch stroke shock. Right now, I have most of it sticking out the top, so there's a lot of downward travel, and you're not worried about up travel. Now, if you want to set the car up to separate or raise in the back like you do with a radial tire, you're probably, excuse me, going to crank these down and bring the rod back into the shock, so maybe you only have a couple inches of downward travel, and the majority of it will allow the shock to go up, and of course you can regulate that with your adjustments as to how fast that happens. But yeah, it's a whole book involved there. So with the same shock and the same rear suspension, you can make it do both if you have enough adjustment, which in this case, as it sits, it would. A lot of theory and, worry about things. At this point, I'm just going to drive it to the store. But should I want to race it, well, why not build it? Build in all the adjustability if you can. Because one of my favorite sayings is the parts pretty much all cost the same. If you want to go fast, just pick the better stuff. Well, that's not always true, but you know, if you're gonna buy a roller camshaft, it doesn't cost more to have more lift and duration. There's other problems that come along with it, but that's just an example where it's not gonna cost more in that area to make more power. If you're gonna buy a piston, well, they kind of all cost the same, etc. So, onward. One thing you'll probably never see on my channel is me to rush to do anything. Like, I watch videos and they're in a big rush to get the engine running to drive the car around the block. Like it's some kind of finale and it's gonna make a difference. To me, it's a waste of time. If I have to, like for instance, I could roll in the wheels and tires and make this roll and you could watch me push it back and forth across the floor. All it is now I gotta put everything back on the left the way it was, take the wheels and tires back off and continue to work on it. So it's actually setting you back from your goal, just trying to force some fake, you know, ending. It doesn't need to be there. If you can't visualize this with wheels and tires and me pushing it across the floor, that'll happen. I'll be smiling ear to ear. But for today, I have some parts I can continue to work on it, and the other parts will be here tomorrow. So the sway bar, etc. It's wicked handy at this height. I got a table, a chair, and I can work on it sitting down. So, not so bad. So, enjoy your Friday. Go out there. If you got, I was a good boy this year. I started saving midsummer. To be honest, I was trying to buy a couple cars that didn't work out. So, I saved enough race car money to, I sold a lot of stuff that I probably didn't need. I haven't missed it yet. Worked extra hard, said yes to projects that, you know, I might have said no to, or should have said no to. Anyway, so I could have money when the deal started showing up. So, that's my story. I hope you have a great day.